And welcome back, and it is the 22nd of May, higher plus 5 a day, and let's just go straight to the first one. Right, do we have? So f of a now, hold on, just doesn't actually say. I am presuming, and it will make this clear in the exam, that that is the graph of f of x. It doesn't technically say that, does it? But I'm sure that's what it means. And I want to know where the line hits the point 2. So in other words, I'm saying where does f of a, or what values of a give me, oh actually it's not 2, is it? It's minus 2. Read the question carefully. So which values of a give me minus 2? So I'm going to draw my line in. Then I'm going to zoom in. Now, in an exam, they're coming to make it all the time. So in the exam, you can do this as precisely as you can. Although I have to say this looks a bit like it's chosen some nice numbers. So in this case, the values that give me minus 2 are going to be a equals minus 3 or a is equal to 0. Actually, that one's not too bad, is it? Next question. Find f of 0. Well, this is a clever question. So I'm going to get rid of what I drew before, and then I'm going to put f of 0 in. So f of 0 means I put 0 in, which means I get minus 2. And then I'm going to put minus 2 in, which means I get minus 4. So f of 0 is minus 4 because I put 0 into f, and then I put the answer to that in again. Good question. Next one. OAB is a triangle, and it gives me some vectors on the triangle. Q is the point on AB such that A to Q, Q to B is 2 to 1. So in other words, that is a third, and that is 2/3. Find the vector B to Q. So B to Q is going to be a third, because I'm going from B to Q, or going to B to A via Q, if you like, of B to A. And I know B to A is going to be, well, a third. Well, B to A means I go negative Bn plus 4A, so negative Bn plus 4A. And actually, that's fine like that, but let's tidy it up slightly just so it looks a little bit better. So that's going to be 4 over 3A minus a third of B. And I have to say either of those two answers are actually fine. I think they're both acceptable. Next part of the question, show that the vector OQ is parallel to 2A plus B. So in other words, I just need to find OQ and show it's a multiple. So O to Q is going to be O to B that I know, plus B to Q that I've just worked out. O to B is B. Then I'm going to add on the thing I've just worked out, which is going to be 4/3 of A minus a third of B. Now, 4/3 of A is 4/3 of A, and B minus a third of B is going to be plus 2/3 of B. If I take a 3 to the outside, if I go a stage further, if I take 2/3 to the outside, that's going to give me 2/3. Well, 2/3 times 2 is 4/3, so that's going to be 2A. Plus 2/3 divided by 2/3 is 1, so plus B. And then I need to answer the question, so I need to show it's parallel, so I'm just going to say that out loud. So that's parallel to A plus B. I've shown it by factorising it out. That will do. Next and final question today. A circle has the equation x squared plus y squared equals 5. So in other words, it's a circle centre 0 with a radius of 5. Root 5. Be careful. So my r, I'm going to write this here. R equals root 5. Q is on the circle. Find the equation of the tangent. So basically, it's another one of these tangent questions, isn't it? Except now the numbers are not as nice. So step 1 is I'm going to find out the gradient of the radius. So the radius to get from O to Q is to go up 29 over 3, and then I'm going to go across 4 over 3. Now, you might be able to do this in one go, and that's fine. But I'm going to write out the step in between. So 29 over 3, keep, change, flip. So times 3 over 4 is the same as root 29 over 4. Now, let's be clear. That is the gradient of my radius. So therefore, the gradient of the tangent, and this isn't a nice number, is 4 over 29 negative, in other words, negative reciprocal. Now, what do I need to do? I then need to say it goes to the point Q. Okay, so let's put it in, just to be clear. So y equals mx plus c. So y equals 4 over root 29 times x plus c. I'm going to leave the root 29 on the bottom just because it might cancel out later. So let's kind of just see what happens for now. So that means that root 29 over 3 is equal to 4/3. I'm going to write this out, even though I can probably simplify it in my head a little bit, but make sure it's here, over root 29 plus c. And let's neaten that second thing up. So root 29 over 3 is equal to, well, 4 times 4 is 16, and it's a negative. And then I'm dividing that by 3. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply top and bottom by 29, or root 29, which gives me 29 on the bottom. And the reason I'm having to do that is because I need the root 29s on the top, so therefore I have a common denominator, plus c. Let's try and tidy this mess up. So I've got root 29, and I need it to be 3 times 29. So I've got 29 of those over 3 times 29. I could work that out, but I'm going to leave it like that for now. Then I'm adding 16 times root 29, all over 3 times 29. So crucially, although that looks horrible, my denominator is the same, which means I can therefore add them together. And that bit of rearranging is equal to C. Okay, 29 things plus 16 things is going to give me 45 things, so 45 root 29. And I will work this out. So 3 times 29, or 3 times 30 is 90. Take away 3 is going to give me 87. This doesn't feel brilliant, does it? But anyway, let's carry on. So C equals 45 root 29 over 87. Now, you may not spot it straight away, or if you've got a calculator, put in your calculator 45 over 87, but you should be able to see that this simplifies down to 15 over 29. That's my C term. So again, remember what I said. This actually, in reality, is a pretty straightforward question. It's just a tangent and radius question that we've done many times. The thing that makes it difficult is the root 29s mean I also need to play with surds. I got there. What I basically did, just to quickly run through, is I, exactly the same way I always do, I worked out the gradient to the radius. I then flipped it to give me the gradient to the tangent. I then used y equals mx plus c. This mess here is just basically working out what c is. I'm going to bring all that together. I'm going to write it in red so you can see what the answer is. It's going to be minus 4 over root 29, which is my gradient, multiplied by x plus 15 root 29 over 29. Now I could rationalize the gradient if I want, so also just as acceptable is minus 4 over root 29 plus 15 root 29 over 29. And that arguably is a little bit more, well, let's not say symmetrical, x I should say. That's a little bit more neat, isn't it? Because at least I've got the same things on the top and the bottom. Well, we ended with quite a difficult question there, didn't we? Because we started off pretty straightforward. The vectors question, not too bad at all. But that last question, just because of the messing around with surds, definitely a bit meaner. Let me know how it went for you. Like, subscribe, and I will see you tomorrow. Thanks all.